Hello everyone and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. Thank you everyone for joining me. We are of course going through wrestling news and there is plenty of it to discuss. We are talking a new contract for Seth Rollins, we're talking a May return and what that entails for Bray Wyatt. We have some broken promises for Triple H, specifically as regards Rhea Ripley. We are talking Brock Lesnar, what his plans are for SummerSlam. The Jeff Hardy return and the Hardy Boyz reunion as first reported here, more details on that. The concept of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being transitional champions, which is what the change to Night of Champions suggests in Saudi Arabia. Jon Moxley's booking power. Punk intentionally leaking information and who's his mule for that one. Shinsuke Nakamura and plans for him. The rewriting of the draft, which is ongoing. I'll just be reiterating what I've already mentioned on that one. And finally, quite a bit of detail on what the plans are in the near future for Liv Morgan. So there's quite a lot to cover, and we will be diving in as much detail as possible. We already have 47 people here and 21 likes, so please do continue to share those. Hello to Bailey in the Twitch side. We will, of course, be answering questions as well, so be sure to say hi, let me know that you're watching, and let me know if you're enjoying it, plus any questions that you have. So I want to start with a few hellos. Juan Orozco, Ken, Eric Douglas, Khalid, Joseph, and Mick. Hello to all of you. Welcome to the show. Brad Becker as well saying hello, hello. Sai saying look at everyone showing up early. I am very, very happy with the fact that I can come into the chat an hour early and there are people to talk to. It's a wonderful thing. Brad says better early than late, plus I love me some spoiler warning with my friends. James Jones says, hey Tom, what you got cooking for us today? Bray returns. That is huge. And says also smash like when you join. It's Tom Mania. Thank you very much, James. Yes, Brett, everything with Seth is okay. Plenty more on that shortly. SBM says, ready to be spoiled with spoilers with Mr. Tom Colohue. Welcome. Steve Engblom is asking, is Veer coming? Veer is always coming. Veer has been coming since he was originally coming. Ed says, I need to bathe in spoilers. Tom, spoil everything. It's getting weird, guys. It's getting weird. Mark is here saying, let's go. Hope everyone in chat is well. Brad says, rumours that he walked out. If this is regards Seth Rollins, I gotta say, there may be rumours, but they are not even slightly true. Richard Robble says, who will win? LA Knight or Xavier Woods? I'm not sure yet. SmackDown hasn't happened. After SmackDown, I'll be able to answer that question. Noob says, hello Tom, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you. Noob 23 Fresh says, R-Truth returning back with the 24 championship? Yes, no. Richard says, who will win? Santos Escobar or Damian Priest? Once again, mate, haven't seen the show yet. We'll let you know. I'll do a little bit of a SmackDown preview at the end because I know there's quite a lot already booked and planned in for SmackDown that is worth discussing. I did see that, Ken, but don't worry about it. Jordan says, good evening, Tom, and the spoiler warning community. Welcome, Jordan, and welcome to everyone as well. Venom says, hi, Tom. Hello, Venom. Bad Boys says, please start with Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt return. I do not have anything on Alexa Bliss. I've already discussed at length Alexa Bliss's planned return. There is a video right now on this YouTube channel which covers every detail of the planned return for Alexa Bliss and the fact that she was not going to be at WrestleMania. That was reported shortly before WrestleMania. Bray Wyatt is what I will be starting with. Stuart is also here saying, evening Tom. Evening Stuart. 23 Fresh says, any CM Punk and AEW news? Yes, there is news on CM Punk and Jeff Hardy. Timothy Bellis is here saying, hey, how's it going? Going very well, thank you. Ricky Fawn says, hi Tom, happy Friday, and happy Friday to you. Zane Charles says, is it true Kenny Omega is having talks with WWE? No, I can categorically state that Kenny Omega has had zero contractual conversations with the WWE. It would be illegal for him to do so. Khalid is excited for some Bray Wyatt news. Dominic Perez asks, hi Tom, why did they change the King of the Ring? Many, many reasons. I'm trying to dig into that at the moment. I don't have too much information as we speak, but the original plan for King of the Ring is clearly something that they've decided to veer away from and have reported as such. It's also possible, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, did the WWE ever report that it was going to be King of the Ring? Did the WWE ever actually report that? Because if they didn't, maybe it actually hasn't changed. Hello Vegeta. Hello Bismo as well. Connor says, hey Tom, hope you're having a good day. Hello Connor. Richard Martinez says, hello Tom, will Veer be coming with the rest of Indus-Sher? No, he will not. Noob says, your thoughts on Io Sky winning the #1 contenders match on Raw? Will it be Backlash or on a random episode of Raw? Not sure. Not sure on that one, but I think it'll be soon. Relatively soon. Leon is here, says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, Leon. Welcome to the show. Dad says, big up Tom, any news on Ray versus Dominic 2? Not as of yet. Ray versus Dominic 2 is something they're looking at, but at the moment they're looking at building Judgment Day rather than just Dominic and trying to spread some of that wealth. Thank you, Khalid. I appreciate that. Eric says, I thought Tony said 6 to 8 weeks with Tony return. I'm imagining you mean the Jeff Hardy return. There will be more on that shortly. Kieran says, is Night of Champions going to be like it used to be where every title was on the line? If so, what happened with the tag team titles? I do have a piece of news as regards Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and plans for those championships. Welcome, Callie. How are you doing? James Jones says, Tom, no for the King of the Ring. You are right. I never heard them confirmed. Thank you very much for clarifying that for me. John Gillis says, hey Tom, when are we getting Trish and Becky? Also, hiring freeze still in place? Hiring freeze has never been in place. I'm not aware of any hiring freeze ever being in place. I've reported that there is a financial analysis going on. I've reported that the purse strings have been tightened previously, but I've not reported about a hiring freeze. Also, as regards Trish and Becky, they seem to be leaning into it for SummerSlam. Ed, thank you, brilliant work. Brings in the article about King and Queen of the Ring. So they did announce it, but then changed their minds. They may be pushing it back. We'll wait and see as regards there, but thank you for the clarification, Ed. It may be that the winner that they want doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. Ken says, did you see Mickie James relinquishes the Impact Knockouts Championship and left her hat in the ring like she was going to retire? I did not. And Joseph says, okay, Tom, I'll see you later for SmackDown. Love the John Cena, who's John Cena's name, loved it. Yeah, the quizzes are going really well, and I'm really enjoying them. Thank you for taking part. Khalid remembers Night of Champion Mark Henry versus Randy Orton in 2011. That was a while back. A while back indeed. Oh no, Ed, you're absolutely spot on. WWE is a first-hand source for WWE information. You might say they're unencroachable. It's clearly the best source that you can have. Venom says, give me spotted reporting. Vince will have no impact on Triple H handling decisions in regards to the draft. Thoughts on this, Tom? Absolutely not true. I can categorically state that that is not true. Connor says, I saw you mentioned Live News. Is that one of the headlines, or can we ask now? Keep up the good work. That is one of the headlines. It is something I have official information on, and it will be coming through shortly. 23 Fresh says, will AEW be releasing wrestlers this year? No. Wrestlers' contracts will end this year. John Gillis says, any news on Tessa going to WWE? Nope, no interest whatsoever. And Daz is enjoying the quizzes as well. Richard says, does a Rated R Superstar Edge have unfinished business with the Judgment Day yet? No, they could not be any more finished. I'm sick to death of the entire feud. We need to move on and leave the entire thing behind. While we're doing that, let's talk about our top piece of news, which is as regards Bray Wyatt. With 69 people currently watching the show, please remember to hit like. And if you've not yet done so, please consider hitting subscribe as well. Every subscriber adds to the overall power that is the Tom Colohue channels and really helps us to grow. So a big thank you to everyone who already has subscribed. I want to say a thank you to Michael as well. Welcome to the show, firstly. Pardon me. And thank you for renewing your record-breaking 26-month subscription on Twitch. Thank you kindly for your constant support. Okay, so Bray Wyatt. Thank you, Ed. I was waiting for someone to say that. Bray Wyatt is expected to return to the WWE in the near future. After Backlash is when we are looking at the return. He will be part of the draft and he is eligible to be drafted, quite possibly moving to Raw. But the big problem that they're having right now is the scripting as regards Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was originally scripting his own storylines as he does have an element of creative control. However, that has been very effectively withdrawn at this point. The return of Vince McMahon and the move to put him against Brock Lesnar did not work out in their favour, and Bray Wyatt would have to start rewriting what would be his future storyline. Then, of course, Brock Lesnar pulled out, and it was Bobby Lashley instead, further confusing the matter and making it even more difficult for Bray Wyatt to write a storyline that he was happy with that would give the fans a satisfying conclusion. Then that match didn't happen either. Bray Wyatt unavailable due to, I believe it was a wrist injury, some fitness issues, and yes, to be blunt, some issues when it came to the creative license afforded to him. Many people in WWE believe that it was a mistake to give him the sort of creative power that he has, and many people do believe that this is one of the major reasons why they are currently having issues with Bray Wyatt. After the draft, he will be drafted to a side, one way or the other. After Backlash, he is believed to be ready to put a storyline together as per going forwards. He's pitched a couple of different feuds and the WWE are ready to start selecting. They've pitched a few offers to him as well, though they don't believe he has any interest in anything that they've pitched to him so far. So there are some ongoing issues with Bray Wyatt. However, he's recovered from the injury in question. He has removed many of the fitness issues that a lot of people are worried about, and he has written a new storyline. After Backlash, Bray Wyatt will be returning to the WWE after Backlash and after the draft. Always a good bit of news, I feel. Always a good bit of news. Daniela says, good evening, Tom. Do you think that teams like Hit Row, Los Lotharios, Alpha Academy can split up during the draft? I think they can. I think they shouldn't. We don't have many tag teams at the moment, and I do believe we're going to need more sooner rather than later, so I wouldn't be splitting out anyone up personally. Eric says, I'm actually glad I've never been a fan of the gimmick, just because of the accent they have them use. Ray says, will you be watching Impact Wrestling Rebellion? No, I don't have time for Impact. I work a full-time job, so I basically just focus on WWE. Bruce says, hi Tom, good day. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you, Bruce, and good to see you as well. Great to see you. Venom says, is AJ Styles injured or do they not have anything for him? Both. They have no creative plans at the moment for him. They're pitching him a few different options when he does recover from injury, but he's one that's believed to be coming after the draft as well. Traffic is here saying, good afternoon, Tom and chat. Thanks as always. Thank you, Traffic. Welcome to the show. Richard says, is Rey Mysterio going to do face... Is Rey Mysterio going to face Dominic Mysterio in a hair versus mask match? This was heavily fantasy booked going into WrestleMania. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Thank you, Bruce. I do suggest as well that we have 85 viewers right now, 37 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up. We are still trying to grow as a channel. One of the easiest ways you can support is by 1, chatting along and asking questions, and 2, hitting the like button. We are still trying to grow in subscribers to hopefully get closer to the day when I can do this full time. Hi, Michael. Ghost says, hello, Tom and chat. Hope everyone is doing well. I don't want to say bringing back Bray was a bad idea, but his entire run has been lackluster to say the least. I hope whatever is brought to the table isn't as long or repetitive as it has been in the past. Me too. Bruce is asking, when is the draft? It will be sometime next month is what's being discussed at the moment. There are no solid, firm plans one way or the other. They need to fix that to make it happen. Khalid says, Tom, Bray Wyatt will show up on SmackDown after Backlash. Well, that depends. As I say, after the draft, he may be drafted to Raw or SmackDown, but the actual storylines they have for him don't kick in until after Backlash. Yes, Ray, I do not have Cherry Coke. At the moment, I have Orange Fanta. I want to fall asleep one day. Just one day. Venom says, I get they don't want AJ Styles to be a main eventer no more. He doesn't have to win the title, but why deprive us of those amazing matches we could have with him? It's just selfish. They're depriving you at the moment because he's injured and thus not available. Callie is glad that Bray is coming back. Thank you very much, Daz Reynolds, who's gifted a channel membership, and that has gone to Joey Siula. I believe you phrased your name, Siula. It's gone to Joey. Thank you very much, Daz. I appreciate that. Hogan said, is it going to continue to the soft brand split that they've utilised these last few months, or are they regressing to a hard split again? The plan at the moment is a hard, firm split. Joey says, hey Tom, do you know why they changed the King of the Ring to Night of Champions? I do not. Jordan is looking forward to seeing Bray return. Hogan says, are they going to continue the soft brand split that they've utilised these last few months? I've actually already answered that one to you a moment ago. Hogan, do better. Richard says, hi Tom, will the Bray and Bobby feud continue? No, it doesn't seem so at the moment, unfortunately. They do look like they're trying to dodge around it. Kieran says, Ray also mentioned it may be happening on Logan Paul's podcast. I have not personally heard that one. I've heard clips. Leon says, are there any plans to do Brock Gunter SummerSlam match? Nothing confirmed at the moment. They are still discussing the different possibilities. No match has been locked in for Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, but I will be talking more on that shortly. Bailey says, given the trends, is adding CM Punk the only way AEW gets above 1 million viewers? It's not the only way, but it is the easiest way. Gotcha, Hogan. Gotcha. Venom says, I hope LA Knight wins. He needs to win and stop being treated like a joke. It was good AJ Styles put him over in NXT. I think he needs to start winning now. The loss to Kofi really did hurt him. Mark says, do we know the fitness issue of Bray? Is it his weight or something else? I have not been given full details beyond that, just that there are some fitness issues when it comes to Bray Wyatt. Mike Rogers says, what's up, Tom? Are we still getting NXT Europe? Yes. Alice says, hi, Tom. Hope you're good. Watching Spoiler Warning is a good way to end a bad week I've had. Well, I hope Spoiler Warning can make it a little bit better for you, mate. Noob says, will Asuka make her return since WrestleMania 39? Maybe she'll take Io Sky under her wing. Why? Like, why? Io Sky already has someone. Daniela says, when Randy Orton returns, do you think he will go after Riddle or return to RK Bro? All of this, every question I've been asked about Randy Orton, I've already answered at the beginning of February in my video about Randy Orton's return schedule. Check it out, Daniela. 23 Fresh says, do people like or respect Vince Russo in the wrestling business? No. James Stewart says, Roman 1,000 days falls on Night of Champions. Maybe the plan for why they've changed it is to celebrate that fact. Ricky says, what are the plans for Roman after SummerSlam? Well, I'd need to know what the plans are for Roman at SummerSlam first. Richard says, the official NXT call-ups are... I'll need a source on this one. Was this announced at NXT or what? Venom says, do you think we'll see anyone move to NXT in the draft? No. Steve says, what's going to happen with Edge moving forward? Is his bucket list nearly complete? Or is there one last major feud available before he retires proper? He needs to be another rising star because Edge... This isn't his bucket list. He came in and he was told, work with this person, and then he said, okay, I'll win over that person. And that has been Edge's run so far. Awkward at best. Kelly says, thank you very much, Tom, for the Bray Wyatt news. Glad he's coming back. I wonder who will he face. And Uncle Howdy and Sister Abigail. Elisa says, Brock Lesnar is there to put over Cody Rhodes. Yes. Traffic says, a hard brand split, so Veer is for sure now. Hello, Sean. Joey says, is Tony Khan trying to bring CM Punk back for the UK show? More on that shortly. Bruce says, I'd like to be a member when I can. You're, of course, welcome to, but no one has to become a member. There are some additional benefits of that. I will be doing members-only streams eventually once I reach a certain level, but at the moment, not really a thing. Joe says, Tom, do you think we'll get John Cena and Logan Paul at SummerSlam? Yes, I do. Luke S. is here, says, a quick recap on Bray Wyatt's return, please. Just joined. Luke, what I advise you to do is pop back to about 7 or 8 minutes into the video. You can literally rewind it just on the bar on the bottom, and you'll get all of the information that you're looking for exactly as originally presented there. Venom says, Melo can't be called up as NXT champion. I don't see him losing it anytime soon. That says, Tom, any news in Miro, where he is or Wardlow? Pitching storylines and not currently convinced by any of them. Alan says, do you know when Edge is coming back to TV? Pretty much when he wants to. It'll be later in the year. Rule Run says, I wasn't expecting the women's tag titles win last week, nor was I. Alex is asking what the Bray news is. Once again, if you can just rewind the stream to about 10 minutes ago, all of the news will be right there, and you can just tuck into all of it. Unfortunately, when it comes to recaps and things, if I did recaps of all of the news whenever someone wanted one, the issue is this show would go for 4 hours, and then I wouldn't be able to watch SmackDown. There was a lot of people who come in and out of the chat, and I present the news when I present the news. For those who were here, I don't want to make the show boring and repetitive, because then they'll leave, so I don't really do recaps. If you want to just pop back, I've got the show set so you can easily rewind it, and that will be an easy way to do that. Yes, Venom, Night of Champions is returning. Mark says, do people get a pay rise or a bonus for doing the Saudi show? No. Bruce says, Tom, will a bloodline add more guys to the team? No. Nelson says, do you think Triple H creates his own wrestling company? No. Richard Martinez says, hi, Tom, any news on Kairi Sane, a potential return to WWE? No. I realise I'm just answering no to all of these questions, but the answer to all of these questions is no. I have no new news on Kairi Sane. If you've been watching Spoiler Warning a few times, you'll already know whose job it is to go out there and connect with Kairi Sane and bring her back. Horsey is here, says, evening, Tom. Little lurk until watch along. Hope you're well. Thank you, Horsey, and thank you for your 6th month of membership. Thank you for celebrating that one. Always very glad to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Khalid wants Bray Wyatt to go back to Raw. Zayn says, why did Brock Lesnar turn heel? To make Cody Rhodes look good. Ed says, as regards the list earlier, which I did not read out, Nikita's injured, Hayes and Hartwell are currently champions, so pending changes, none of them would be likely to be called up. I'm still waiting on a source for that list. Richard says, during the draft, will Zoe Stark be on SmackDown or Raw? There's no guarantee she's actually being called up. Joey says, do you think they will do the King of the Ring tournament at another date? I'm not sure. I thought they were going to do it now. Kieran says, Ed will come back whenever he wants another cheap pop. He'll come back nearer to SummerSlam. Dominic says, are they splitting the world titles after the draft? Who's Roman's next opponent? How do I get a channel membership? Well, a few things there. As regards to world titles, I think so, but I don't know so. My opinion has been changing constantly because essentially they're making it up as they go along. As regards Roman's next opponent, Cody, again. And as regards the channel membership, if you're on the YouTube channel and you scroll down, just underneath where it would say my name and then subscribe, there is a join button. You just want to check that out and you can become a channel member. Venom says, when is Night of Champions? Sometime in Saudi Arabia, so I will not be watching and I don't really care. Eric says, was it always going to be KO and Sami who took the Usos belts? Yes. And in fact, I reported that match would happen, that match would be between those teams, and that match would be that result in September. Thank you, Joe. I have seen you already say that. Daniela says, I'm hoping Cody defeats Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. When would that be? Obviously after he gets his feud done with Brock. Correct. Hogan says, I don't think Melo's going up at the moment, but there's a precedent to a wrestler getting called up while NXT champion. Oh, Melo, sorry. Brad Skulnick says, Tom, have you tried strawberry Fanta? Not as of yet, no. Zayn says, are you going to have a bet on the Grand National? No. Steve says, Edge has never had a proper US title run. Given back in the day, unified it with the IC title in 2001. Edge versus Fury US title match this year. There was a US championship in 2001? I'm not sure there was. There was a European championship in 2001. Venom says, do you think Roman will lose to Cody at SummerSlam? Yes. And John says, I can't see Brock taking a Crossroads. I can. Bruce says, will there be Vince McMahon versus Tom at WrestleMania 40? Unfortunately not, though that would draw. Sean says, is it true that Seth walked out after his segment on Raw after Mania? Apparently Seth was told during the commercial break his segment was cut short. This was by Ringside News. No. So let's get into this. Seth Rollins is currently actively negotiating a new contract with the WWE for when his begins to expire. The idea being, it's an WWE US title. Of course it was. Thank you, James. Thank you. Of course it was. Thank you, Hogan, as well. How did I forget about that? You're absolutely right. I forgot about the invasion entirely. Seth Rollins is actively negotiating a new contract with the WWE, which will see him significantly reduce the dates of his contract. He would then go into a more part-time status, similar to Roman Reigns, and similar to what we're going to be seeing in the near future from Becky Lynch as well. This allows both Seth and Becky to spend more time with their family, and in many ways, more time with each other. Their value to the company is unquestionable, and as I've been saying for a number of years now, moving to part-time contracts is what all of the top stars are going to be doing. The Usos have part-time contracts. Roman obviously has part-time contracts. Randy Orton has a part-time contract. AJ Styles has a part-time contract. There is a lot of part-time contracts currently in play. Seth Rollins wants one of them. Becky Lynch wants one of them, and they will get them. Now, as regards this rumour that Seth Rollins walked out, it simply isn't true. Apparently, from everyone I've spoken to, the segment was not changed while Seth Rollins was in the ring. That was always the planned segment. They were essentially just reminding him of the role that he had at the time. It may be that there was something cut, but from everything I'm aware of and the listing backstage, Seth Rollins was supposed to have that moment with the crowd and then go back to backstage. There was no walkout. There was no issue. There is an ongoing contract negotiation. Seth Rollins will not be leaving the WWE. Okay. I don't think I could be any more clear. I feel happy about that. Joe says, Tom, could you see Ryback coming back? No. Rulevent says, is Rhea scheduled for tonight? Not officially, but Rhea is very important to SmackDown at the moment, so I suspect we will see her. Alex says, give me sports, said Triple H has internally decided Roman's next match is going to be in Saudi at Night of Champions. Could he face Cody there? Could. Don't mean... Pardon me. Could. Don't mean he will. I think they'll be saving it for SummerSlam. Randall Vasquez, welcome. Says, is Finn getting a big push after the loss with Edge? Judgment Day getting a big push. Over the course of the next year, Judgment Day are going to be integral to SmackDown and to Raw. Integral. Judgment Day are going to be very key going forwards. All of them will be getting a push. And to be fair, Finn Balor got the match before the main event of WrestleMania in Hell in a Cell against Edge. It's not a bad spot to be at. Not a bad spot. Thank you very much, Daz, for celebrating your 3rd month as a channel member as well. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. Alyssa says, do celebrations of Roman right now... Oh, do the celebrations for Roman Reigns at Night of Champions. Venom says, do you think Strowman will go to Raw and to become the destructive, entertaining monster again? They are extremely happy with Braun Strowman at the moment, and they're not really planning any big changes to his character. Richard, at this point you're just saying things with no actual reason for it. Give me a source, or start making it clear that it's your opinion and not a report. Steve says a lot of people want to forget about the invasion angle or what could have been. Kangas here says, good evening, Tom. Good evening to you. Dol says, anything on Aaliyah? Aaliyah has been cleared for a while now. There does seem to be some issue with creative where they're simply not creating anything that she is really interested in, and it's causing some issues. Ken says, will we see the NXT UK title return and a name change? No. Venom says Seth would be on a Roman contract. No, he'd be on a Seth Rollins contract. It would be very similar though. Daniela says, now that Shinsuke Nakamura is returning tonight, in next 3 months he will face off with Gunther for the IC title maybe. Venom says, when do you think we'll see Edge next, and who do you think he feuds with next? I don't know who he'll feud with next, but I think we'll see him closer to SummerSlam. Venom says, do you think if Seth doesn't get a part-time contract, he could use AEW to try and get his way? Could. Won't. Joey says, what's going on with Cameron Grimes? He's been gone for a while. They just don't have anything for him. They seem to have completely run out of ideas for the character. Tommy says, when Edge's contract ends with WWE, will he go to AEW? If he wants to, yes. Hogan says, you're saying not to ask you 35 times if Rollins is leaving. That is what I'm saying, yes. Girl says, what was the backstage reaction to Jeff Hardy's return? Was it positive or was there a bit of a divide? I do have something on Jeff Hardy. It is my 5th piece of news, so I'm currently up to my 3rd. I'll be with that very shortly. Venom says, do you think Volta turns face, and if so, when? Volta has an entire career ahead of him, and it's a long and storied one that's going to be by the end of it. He may turn face. Forever is a very long time. Alyssa says, rumour Kevin owned Sami Zayn wouldn't... I'm not sure what you're saying there, Alyssa. Kieran says, I imagine Judgment Day versus LWO will be the War Games match if that feud goes that long. That feud will not go 6 months, although Edge did. So, Zayn says, will Piper Niven get a push? Depends what you mean by a push. Okay? Depends what you mean by a push. Alan says, I want to see Finn versus Roman, then Damien and Dominic versus the Usos. I don't think they're going that far. Tom Buckle, Carl, how you doing, mate? Says, make sure to help out Tom's YouTube channel by clicking the like button and subscribing. It's cost effective since it's free to do. Thank you for that one, Carl. We do have 102 viewers and only the 48 likes so far. It means half of you have not hit that thumbs up. If you're able to, please do. No real pressure on it, but it does help the channel and it does ensure that YouTube advertises and we grow further. Also, 2 more subscribers get us to 2,360, and I'd be very appreciative if you've not subscribed yet to check it out. John Gillis says, the draft, Ilya Dragunov have joined Imperium from Give Me Sport. That does not work in any way with Imperium. Callie was shocked Finn was wrestling with the staples in his head. Mick says, Tom, do you think that the comeback of CM Punk could finally happen after the last developments, or do you still think that it will not happen? That is one of my pieces of news a little bit later. 23 Fresh says, who's going to be the one to defeat Roman Reigns? Cody. Joey says, do you know if the IC and US titles have been discussed for matches at Backlash? Yes. Rollman says, were there any surprise wins for you at Mania this year? Yes. Roman. Kieran says, according to Fightful Select, Karrion and Nakamura are going into a feud. More on that shortly. Eric says, imagine Sting... Okay, why? Why would I imagine matches that can't happen? Riyadh says, hey Tom, hope you and the family are doing well. Doing very well, thank you, and thanks for checking in, mate. Sean says, you're forcing the tag title change and EO becoming #1 contender. Happy for the tag title change. There will be more information coming about that, particularly as regards Liv Morgan. As regards EO Sky, it's a great opportunity, and I'm really excited for her. Thank you, Just Incredible, spelled with a K like it's Mortal Kombat. So Mortal Kombat Just Incredible, thank you very much for becoming a channel supporter. I very much appreciate it. Kang says, do you think Cody's the most likely next opponent for Roman? Yes. Danielle says, I really do hope Cameron Grimes won't be one of the company's budget cuts. That says, any idea if the Usos are on tonight, Tom? Nothing has been announced so far. Joey says, do you think Drew will be Gunther's next opponent so they can have a singles match? I think we're going back towards Sheamus first, but I definitely know, I feel absolute confidence that Drew McIntyre one-on-one with Gunther is going to happen in the near future. Of course, at the moment, Drew McIntyre is trying to negotiate his contract and say, I want more opportunities at the World Championship and get back to the very top level. So we'll see how that plays out. Billy says, in your opinion, who do you think Edge should face in his final WWE match? Someone way down the card. Who will win? I just want Edge to lose a match at this point. Clean. Give him Austin Theory. He'd do wonders for Austin Theory, but he won't. He'd beat him. Venom, very possibly Cody gets a part-time contract sometime soon, but he has only just started his. Ken, a title push is not coming for Piper Niven. Alex Kids, can we send voice messages on Discord now? You can send exactly what you could send previously on Discord. I don't know what you're on about. Venom says, I want Bianca versus Ronda. Do you think it could happen anytime soon? Yes. Venom says, do you think we see Cody versus Roman at both SummerSlam and Money in the Bank? No. I don't believe Roman will be at Money in the Bank. Eric says, who do you think will be next for Judgment Day? We are still working on Bad Bunny and Rey Mysterio. Kevin says, what really happens to Asuka? I understand she's frustrated with her booking. Well, if you understand that, then you know her better than me. And after all, your close personal connection clearly is what's working out there, Kevin. I have not heard anything about her being frustrated with her booking. I heard she's frustrated with the fans. She's not particularly happy with fan reception. Steve says, if KO and Sami need to drop the belts before that, more on that later. Sean says, if the Usos are on a part-time schedule, they're on the shows every week. They're not on the shows every week, though. They're actually not. Ken says, who do you think will be the next Raw Women's Champion? Still think Asuka. Bailey says, how many writers are assigned to each WWE show? It varies. It's around 7 or 8. Joey, I'm not sure if Io versus Bianca is a plan for Backlash. Seems to make the most sense that it will be. Sean says, Austin Theory did beat Edge on the Raw after Chamber for the US title. Yeah, and it's still not enough. Edge came back for a number of years and all he's done is beat the top names. Beat Randy Orton. Beat Seth Rollins. Came very close on several occasions to beating Roman Reigns. Now he's beating Finn Balor. He's not giving back. He's just not. Needs to do more. Eric wants LA Knight versus Edge for his last match. Venom says, do you think the tag titles will be separated during the draft? Yes. And Rollrun says, do you think unified titles will be split during the draft? Yes. Next up is as regards broken promises by Triple H. So, this pertains to one particular person. One particular person whom Triple H has broken multiple promises to, and that person is Rhea Ripley. There are 2 key promises that Triple H has broken. Right after the Royal Rumble, Triple H said to Rhea Ripley, you're going to main event night 1. That is not what happened. That was changed very late in the day, in the days leading up to WrestleMania. Literally just days leading up to WrestleMania, to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos. Now, as I said during the watch-along, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair went out there determined to prove that that decision was the wrong decision. I don't necessarily know that they did, but they did put on a fantastic match that would have been very good closing out WrestleMania. That, of course, role was changed. That promise was broken, but it's not the only promise that's been broken. Rhea Ripley has said openly in interviews that she wants to face Beth Phoenix, and that once again is a match that has been promised to her that has not been delivered. Instead, we got the mixed tag match at Elimination Chamber, and that seems like it's all she's going to get at this point. Beth Phoenix, for her part, has pitched a number of different matches to WWE officials featuring herself. She wants to wrestle Becky Lynch. She's made that very public knowledge. There's a number of others, Raquel Rodriguez, for example, that she'd like to work with. And Rhea Ripley is one of those names at the very top that she wants to work with. It's a little confusing that Trish Stratus comes in and says, I want to work this person, and gets her wish, whereas Beth Phoenix, who's there pretty much constantly, is never used or utilised effectively. Riyadh says, with the draft, do you think there'll be one general manager for each brand? Nope. Barry says 7 or 8 writers. Shakespeare wrote stuff almost as good on his own. Bruce says, anything on what they will do with Charlotte Flair? They'll let her have the rest of her time off. Oh, AJ, that's true, Kieran. That's true, he did beat AJ. Venom says, when do you think we see DIY? When both men are fit and have nothing else to do. Rulrun says, does Adam Pearce have a genuine, high and important role within the company, or is it mainly a character? It's mainly a character. He's a backstage producer, but it's mainly the character that has a higher role. Yes, Vegeta, Rhea is happy, but I do want to highlight broken promises regardless. There are still moments where she's not the happiest. Eric says, how could he have imagined how big Sami KO versus the Usos have been? He could have watched the TV show at any point. I mean, he could have watched the Royal Rumble. Hogan says, I could absolutely see Gunter Drew in the main event of Money in the Bank for the IC title, but it'd be rough to have Drew lose in the main event of 2 straight UK shows. Maybe he won't. Richard is asking something about NXT, which I do not know about. Joey says, are they saving Trish Stratus versus Becky for SummerSlam, or will they do it earlier? Most likely it's for SummerSlam, yes. The heel turn was planned, but it was never planned for WrestleMania. They were never going to pull the trigger there. It was kind of a waste if that be the case, considering it kind of is disrespectful to Bayley, I think is the best way to say it. Disrespectful to Bayley. Daniela says, who do you think must have attacked Lita before the tag team title match? Trish or another superstar? Trish. Venom says, Charlotte's only just had a break. She's having another one. At least stay for a bit. When do you think she comes back? She broke her break. So she stopped her break and came back on WWE request to win the championship and work with Rhea Ripley because Ronda Rousey didn't want to. Okay? So she ended her break prematurely and now she's gone back to finish it. She's actually in the same break. She did them a favour. Vegeta says, wrestling is a business of broken promises and missed opportunities. The only thing I really want to highlight is that Triple H and Vince McMahon aren't that different after all sometimes. Rulrun says, with the Judgment Day versus Edge feud, they could have set up a really nice match with Rhea and Beth. Missed opportunity. I completely agree. Completely agree. Brock Lesnar is advertised for wrestling at SummerSlam, and this is where Gunther gets put at the most risk. Now, Brock Lesnar, as I previously reported, has requested specifically a match with Gunther. It is a match that he wants to be involved in and a match that he is likely to win. However, the WWE, in particular Triple H, does not want Brock Lesnar holding the Intercontinental Championship because one, it's going to be nearly impossible to get it off him, and two, it'll vanish entirely from TV. This is where we start to look at the possibility of Drew McIntyre around Money in the Bank time beating Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. That said, I don't think Drew McIntyre will be the one to win the championship. I think the winner of that championship will be someone who is making their return to SmackDown tonight. Just wanted to tease that one a little bit. Brock for SummerSlam versus Gunther is not a lock. Not at all. But it's what Brock wants. And what Brock wants, he usually gets. If Gunther is going to lose a championship, let's say for example at Night of Champions, he then could still work with Brock in a big draw match, even though probably losing, for SummerSlam, and then move into the main event picture shortly afterwards, working a Cody Rhodes. Bruce says, Tom, will Gunther ever be heavyweight champion? Ever? If he's booked to be, yes. His career has a lot of years ahead of it. There's a lot of time to convince people he's worth that shot, and he already has. Alyssa says, DIY versus Uso is money at SummerSlam. DIY are nowhere near at the moment the level required to have a SummerSlam Tag Team Championship match with the Usos. Nowhere near. Daniela says, any updates on when Johnny Wrestling, Gargano, could return to TV? Not as of yet. They are waiting on a new storyline for him. Essentially, he's one of those where there's a lot of disappointment as regards his use so far. They want to find a way to really instill a lot of adrenaline into what he does next and really suggest a lot of excitement there. I do feel it's going to be a big moment when it eventually does happen, but it has to eventually happen in order to make that happen. Callie says, personally, I think Beth is a much better wrestler than Trish. Joey says, I think Pete Dunne versus Gunther could happen at Money in the Bank since it's in the UK. I feel if they have Drew McIntyre, they'll use Drew McIntyre. Venom says, Drew doesn't need it, which I feel is true. Callie says, is Bayley turning face? I believe she will be doing so, yes. There was talk around WrestleMania time of a breakup of Damage Control, and that very much seems to be the plan going forwards. Bayley turning face and going to SmackDown, for me, makes a lot of sense. But there is one clear suggestion that that is not going to be the case, and I'll get to that shortly. Vegeta says, trust me, I know, Tom, people seem to act they're vastly different. Who else did Triple H learn from? Joey says, why does Brock not want to put anyone new over? Brock is happy to put a number of new people over. He just does it when he's told to, and ultimately he's never told to. Bruce says, love Trish, I've had a big time crush on her. Okay. Kevin says, who's going to beat Bianca Belair for the championship? I still think Asuka. Peter is dropping tables. Welcome, Peter, and says, remember the likes, people. Thank you very much. We have 121 viewers and only the 54 likes. If you're able to, please throw those thumbs up in and subscribe if you haven't already. We have plenty more news to come, including more news on the Hardy Boys reunion, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' future with the Tag Team Championships, Jon Moxley self-booking, CM Punk, and his intentional leaking of certain information and who his mule is for that, Shinsuke Nakamura's return plans, the rewriting of the draft, and quite a bit on Liv Morgan. Joey says, I think Gunter will break the record for the longest IC champ. I believe so as well. And Venom says, do you think we could see the way soon? Yeah, we kind of already have, but we need a few more people involved. They're not keen on putting Austin Theory back into the group, but once he loses the championship, they'll start to open that door a little bit. Sean says, I remember you saying they were waiting for a storyline to bring Alexa back. Is it possible she turned down some of those storylines? Yes, but it's more likely Bray Wyatt turned down some of those storylines because he has been writing things for Alexa Bliss. So unless they split them up, Bray Wyatt, his return, will be directly linked with Alexa Bliss. Venom says, who do you think dethrones Austin Theory? I think that is a difficult one. Personally, I think Drew McIntyre is more likely to win that championship. Alex says, when does Drew's contract end? A full year from now. Trash says, have you already talked about Bray? Yes, I did. It's 8 minutes into the show. So if you want to just rewind to 8 minutes in and then catch up once you've heard it, you'll get all the information there. It's only like a 3-minute segment. Callie says, it would be an amazing match if Gunter went after Roman. The day is coming. The day is coming. Richard says, do you think Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams will turn on Roxanne Perez and Indy Hartwell? Are they a team now? News to me if they are. Ken says, will the Hugger Bailey return? No. Danielle says, Bailey the Hugger to return? I can't imagine that. You don't need to. It's not going to happen. The WWE don't go backwards. They don't just say, okay, we'll go back to the previous gimmick. Even The Undertaker, when he went back to the Dead Man, was a very different character. Venom says, do you think Ronda and Shayna win tag belts at Backlash? Not anymore, no. Joe says, Tom, if there was anyone you'd like to come back on SmackDown tonight, who'd it be and why? There's a number of people I would really like to see back on SmackDown. I like AJ Styles. I think he is the best wrestler in the world. Randy Orton at the moment, though, I think would add the most. Traffic says, Brock has been putting more people over than Edge. True. Eric says, I think Roxanne is the one to beat Bianca at Money in the Bank. Carl says, did you talk anything about Roman and Night of Champions? Not really on that one. I'm obviously aware that it's going to be a big moment for him, and I believe that will be a celebration, but I don't see him losing the championship on that night. That's the only thing we've really discussed so far. Bruce says, if you hit the like button, Tom's channel goes out on YouTube and gets more people to be here, which is very true. There are several signals that YouTube takes from you, the viewer, and uses them to determine whether or not they should advertise my show. The easiest signal is how many people are watching. We've got 115 right now, which is a great number. And then it's things like the amount of likes. 59 right now, a good number, could be a little bit higher. After that, it's something called chat rate, where the more people are in the chat asking, commenting, responding, the more it puts it out there as well. And then it's average view duration, so people sticking around. Venom says, do you think Indy holds on to the NXT title that long so she can be called up? No, I think either she loses the championship and gets called up, or she doesn't get called up. Kevin says, WWE going to bring back the draft? I hope SmackDown talent don't show up on Raw, or Raw talent show up on SmackDown. Joey says, is Uncle Howdy gone until Bray's back? Yes, because they are scripting something new, and Bray Wyatt's scripting Uncle Howdy. Dylan, welcome, mate. Says, hi Tom, how are you doing? Why is King and Queen of the Ring now Night of Champions? I'm not sure on that one. I haven't had time to really research it too much. I'll start asking questions and try and find out what's going on there. But at the moment, unfortunately, I just don't have an answer for you. Richard, you're asking very random questions. Will Cora Jade and Zoe Stark form an unholy alliance in NXT? Maybe, I don't know. Everything's on the table. Joe says, I'd like to see Nikita Lyons challenge for the NXT title. Sean says, do you think we get the first failed cash-in for the women this year? I kind of hope so. Just, I want a moment of failed cash-in, so you're not always thinking, oh, Charlotte's about to lose the championship. And Daniela says, Ronda and Shayna won the showcase match. Shouldn't they have got the tag team title shot? No, because both of them are currently injured. That's why they have not got the shot. It's purely down to the fact that both of them are currently injured. Zane says, when will Baron Corbin stop being a jobber? When they give him a storyline worth backing. Just making bum-ass Corbin again, it worked. Corbin says, Half-Life or Mass Effect? Half-Life. Mass Effect I really couldn't get into. Really couldn't get into it. I spent all of my time mining on planets and then just sort of got bored. OCD. You get stuck on things like that. Dad says, Tom, when do you think we get Darby Allin versus Sting? When Sting is ready to retire. Steve says, who's next for Roman Reigns? Will he just not defend his title until Cody is ready for his rematch? That's what I think is going to happen. Yes. Rule Run says, did you ever see a feud happening between Cody and Randy? Yeah, absolutely. Both men really want that to happen. Joey says, is it true that the Elite don't want to work with CM Punk if he returns? More on that shortly. Adam, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about there, Adam. Well, welcome to the show. Razal says the Survivor Series gone back to Raw versus SmackDown. It doesn't seem so yet, no. Next up, the Hardy Boyz reunion. I reported last week that Jeff Hardy was going to be returning to AEW. Matt Hardy has now confirmed that not only is Jeff Hardy cleared for in-ring action, which is contrary to other reports at the moment, but that it was very much in the last few days that these conversations have been taking place. Jeff Hardy did return at Dynamite this week, and he is back in the fold for AEW and will be wrestling at the upcoming pay-per-view. He'll also be wrestling at... He'll also be featured on Rampage. There are reports out there that he's not fully cleared yet. There is still an injury or a surgery to his eye that needs to be taken into consideration. So it will take him a little while to be back to full strength, but he is cleared to wrestle at this point in time. There is believed to be very low risk to his eye. He's just been cleared, like very, very recently, indeed on Wednesday. So Tony Khan is putting plans together at the moment for a team, once again, of Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. The response backstage, and I'll go through asking about this one, was lukewarm. People are willing to work with Jeff Hardy, but they're not willing to full-on trust that this is going to be good enough going forwards. People are happy to see Jeff, people are happy to work with Jeff, but there are serious questions being asked by certain members of the roster as regards the long-term viability of Jeff Hardy. I also feel I should point out before we get to the CM Punk stuff, which is 2 pieces of news away, when it comes to CM Punk, he's not even slightly happy to have Jeff Hardy anywhere near him. Venom says, hope Survivor Series stays as War Games. Do you think this happens? Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have to be Raw vs SmackDown or War Games. They can both be true. Hogan says, for those wondering, Gunter would need to hold the title until at least September 8th to break Honky's record. Thank you. Bruce says, people please hit like button. There's 103, only 29 likes. There is not only 29 likes. There's 61, mate. 61, but I appreciate it. Venom says, why did they stop including NXT in Survivor Series? It was so entertaining. They included NXT once, to my knowledge, and Vince was not a fan of it. Now that Triple H is in charge, also not a fan of it. Who saw that one coming? Gomar says, what happened to Shinsuke Nakamura? More on that shortly. He is returning tonight. Bruce says, hope Jeff Hardy can stay clean and sober and stay out of trouble with the law. Me too, mate. Me too. Just in the Bray Wyatt character, Bray Wyatt himself is currently writing plans involving Bray Wyatt, and when it comes to Uncle Howdy, he is writing plans for Uncle Howdy as well. He wants to go back to the storyline that he was playing with before the pitch to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania was put in, and he had to start rewriting everything. Hello, 456, how you doing, mate? Rulman says, do you think Drew will win the main event at Money in the Bank? No. Steve says, hello, Tom. Hello to everyone in the chat. Welcome, Steve. How you doing? Dylan says, Tom, do you think now that Nakamura is coming back on SmackDown tonight, we could potentially see a feud with him and Roman? More on that shortly. I do have news on the early plans for Shinsuke Nakamura. Adam says, was Nick Khan responsible for the releases? Because Triple H stated that that's not true. Nick Khan has never been responsible for the releases. Nick Khan puts together the cost-benefit analysis and essentially puts a list out there of whom he believes is not justifying the expense. He doesn't fire people. He advises on who should be fired. Vince McMahon was the one releasing people. Callie says, I wish they would do another pay-per-view like they did before with Raw vs SmackDown vs NXT. That was one of the best pay-per-views I've seen in a while with getting all brands involved, and it maybe will be happening at some point in the future. Eric says, do you think the Hardy Boyz will compete for their tag team titles? Maybe. It's too early. Pardon me, it's too early right now. Steve says, now the champions change, give me a bold prediction. It's the same day Roman makes 1,000 days as champion. I think it will be the same day Roman loses the championship in a rematch versus Cody in Saudi. Bruce says, Tom, will DDP ever wrestle on WWE? Not anymore, no. Venom says, it'd be good if we got Shinsuke versus Roman at Backlash. It would be. We won't get it. Ghost says, Matt did say in his podcast Jeff is cleared but won't be 100% for 6 to 8 weeks due to the eye injury, which is consistent with what I reported in a previous spoiler warning. They'll be announcing his first match back tonight on Rampage. I believe he'll be highly protected to a certain degree. Hopefully his first match back has nothing to do with ladders. You say that, but it's Jeff Hardy, so even if there is no concept of ladders involved, he'll find ladders. Jeff Hardy, he'll find ladders. Steve says, do you feel we'll still get King and Queen of the Ring at some point in 2023? Yes, I do. Roland says, do you think Vince is extremely keen on Austin Theory, or was that all storyline? He is genuinely very invested in the development of Austin Theory and really thinks Austin Theory has a very, very strong future. And Hogan says the current incarnation of NXT is much more a developmental brand than Black and Gold, so it makes sense they want to limit upward integration. To be fair, Black and Gold was supposed to be the developmental brand. It was always supposed to be the developmental brand. Triple H saw it differently, but Vince McMahon never did. No Venom. No. I'll do Raw watch parties as soon as I want to do Raw watch parties. That's it. That's it. Next up is as regards the transitional nature, quite possibly, of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, because I can confirm Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will not be appearing in Saudi Arabia at Night of Champions. If Night of Champions is going to have every championship belt defended, the tag championships, which are currently held by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, will need to be dropped beforehand. There's a number of teams that could be featured, but they'd also need a feud in place for them. I find it more likely that Night of Champions does not feature every championship. Specifically for a Triple H pay-per-view, if you factor in the World Championship, the two mid-card titles, the Women's Championships, and the Women's Tag titles, there's a 6-match card that Triple H usually aims for. So I don't necessarily believe that you need the Tag Team Championships as well. That said, it's not an impossibility that they do transfer those championships. I can confirm, I've asked the question, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have no intention of wrestling in Saudi Arabia. Joe says, Tom, John Cena's latest movie is doing his Fast and Furious 10 on the 19th of May release night. Cool. Joe says, I kind of had a feeling this return wasn't going to be seen as highly exciting as his debut last year. Can't say that I blame them, but I hope he proves the non-believers wrong. This is, of course, about Jeff Hardy, and I hope so too. I hope he can get himself back on track, because at this point, it's not funny. It's really not. Sean says, do you think Roxanne wins the title back from Indy or comes up and beats Bianca? I personally think she comes up and beats Bianca. Or just comes up. I don't think she beats Bianca. I think she beats Io. Venom says, who do you think they could drop the titles to? The obvious choice, unfortunately, is the Usos. That seems the obvious choice. Though I think Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus the Usos is more likely to be the match, with Braun Strowman and Ricochet winning the championships, or the Street Profits possibly as well. Joe says, I'd like to see the Judgment Day take the tag team of Kevin and Sami. Rule Ren says, is there a reason they're not keen on Saudi? Sami Zayn is not allowed in Saudi Arabia due to his ethnicity and religious beliefs. Saudi Arabian government has made that very clear to the WWE that Sami Zayn is not allowed anywhere near their country. Kevin Owens has chosen not to be there in support of his friend. Eddie said King of the Ring will be postponed for June. I don't know. It's postponed. I do believe they will do it this year, but I don't necessarily know when. Zayn says, will WWE and AEW ever work together as a forbidden door? The WWE would receive absolutely zero benefit. They would establish their competitor as a threat, but would actually receive no benefit to themselves whatsoever. There is no reason for the WWE to ever work with AEW. Yes, Joey, it looks like they are planning a backlash to do Usos versus Sami and KO. Anthony says, Tom, since Drew McIntyre has already been both a babyface and a heel on the main roster, it is time for him to be a tweener. Ooh. Welcome, Anthony. Dom says, what's up, Tom and chat? I've been here for 8 months. That's Monday I missed, but don't forget to hit that like button, and we have 3 words for you. We the ones. We the ones, Tom. We the ones. And Barry says, just one of the many reasons not to watch the Saudi shows. For anyone new here, I do not do watch parties for the Saudi Arabia pay-per-views, because I don't watch them, and I don't care. Saudi Arabian shows, it's my own personal little protest. I know what happened, and I'm a journalist, and I don't believe any journalist should be willing to support them after what has been proven to have happened. I will not support them. I know that obviously this is not exactly a big protest. I'm not exactly standing up for anything huge, and I know it's a drop in the ocean and WWE won't notice. But I personally have not watched a Saudi show since the very first one, and I don't plan to change that. Eddie says the draft will have big surprises or returns. Yeah. One of them we spoke about very early on in this show. And Steve says, what about El Generico? Is he allowed in Saudi? Well, nobody knows who El Generico is, so quite possibly. Mark says, do you think they could split the tag titles before the Saudi show? I believe they could, yes. Whether or not they will, different question. And Anthony says, Tom, has there been any update on when they expect to debut NXT Europe, or if they pushed it back for next year? They've not pushed anything back because they've not confirmed anything. You can't push something back if you haven't announced it. Sean says, Cora got boring chance during her promo on NXT this week. I understand Kichi's a heel, but Cora isn't boring. Venom says, Saudi think their pay-per-views are on the same level as Mania, which is ridiculous. Arenas are great, but most of the time they hype up matches that ended up being crap. They need to get over themselves. Wouldn't know. And Zayn says, I believe in Tom Colohue. Thank you, Zayn. I appreciate that. Eric says, this is why you refuse to watch the World Cup. Yeah. Exactly the same reason. Exactly the same reason. You guys were coming in and asking me World Cup questions, and I had nothing for you. Nothing for you. It's a tiny little protest, but it's all I can do. So that's all I'm doing. Bismo doesn't watch the Saudi shows either. Dylan says, I thought that the original plan was KO, Sami and Riddle versus Solo, Jay and Jimmy for Backlash. Also what happened at Saudi. I don't know what you mean by what happened at Saudi. I'd take that 6-man tag. I'd like a bit of variation to it, and it would be good for Solo. Joey says, when will WWE start signing talent for NXT EU? They already have. Hogan says, Crown Jewel is a lot less of a mouthful than King and Queen of the Ring. Could be a place to do those tournaments. And Adam says, is WWE trying to sign anyone? Yes. Aled says, do you think Logan Paul will be a Backlash? No. Anthony says, Tom, with Endeavour partnering up with WWE, do you think there's a chance Dee and Deborah Group would convince WWE to not do any more shows in Saudi Arabia? Well, Endeavour may. Ari Emanuel may decide to end that once the contract ends, but they do have a contract to complete. So they need to complete that contract. Steve didn't watch that one either. Joey says, do you know who they signed? I know some. Guys, I can't report everything I'm aware. They're trying to sign a number of people, but I can't report everything that I'm aware of. Okay? Most of the stuff I have, I verify with multiple sources before I report it. Okay? If I had multiple sources, I'd be reporting it. Go says, this is extremely random, but I'd love to see Slammy Awards come back. That was a fun time. That would be a fun little network exclusive. I enjoy that. A little Peacock special. Yes, Zane, you're absolutely right. I'm very glad of that. And in fact, I'm very confused by the fact that people are really supportive of Newcastle being bought out. But money talks, I guess. Sean says, think WWE waits for NXT Europe to bring back Blair Davenport? Yes, I do. No, I've not watched much hockey, but when I have watched it, I've enjoyed it. Anthony, I follow Liverpool, but I'm not diehard, as it were. I have a local team that I have a season ticket to. That's my team, as it were. Next up, Jon Moxley. It has been confirmed by Renee Paquette that at the moment Jon Moxley is essentially booking himself. I've asked a few additional questions here, and Jon Moxley is literally choosing his own opponents, choosing his own storylines, and putting together his own matches, literally calling it in the ring. There is no producer working directly with Jon Moxley. He is calling the shots inside and outside of the ring at the moment, and everyone else is falling in line. So a little tidbit there. As regards Jon Moxley, there are no plans for him at the moment coming from Tony Khan. Tony Khan's essentially leaving him to his own devices, and much the same is true of Bryan Danielson as well. They are both booking their own feuds, their own storylines, and working with whoever the hell they want at the moment. CM Punk. I know a lot of you have been asking about CM Punk, so let's talk about it, because there is quite a lot to talk about with CM Punk. I've already spoken in detail about the fact that CM Punk is looking to make his return. I've gone into quite a lot of detail on that, and in fact I reported that he was trying to make a match with the Elite happen using FTR. I also reported at that time that Dax Harwood of FTR is making himself very unpopular backstage by being so openly supportive of CM Punk in the locker room. He has very openly made it clear that his affiliation is to CM Punk, and that has really annoyed quite a lot of people, and it's limited the amount of people that FTR can work with. Essentially right now, the Young Bucks not really keen on working with FTR, even though Tony Khan's trying to make that match happen. Now, CM Punk is intentionally leaking information to make himself come off in a good light, and intentionally leaking his demands to Tony Khan, essentially saying, I want this 6-man tag match, I want this to be built around me, and he's passed that on via a wrestling journalist to Tony Khan. The wrestling journalist in question, Sean Ross Sapp, has intentionally been a mule for CM Punk in the past as well, and has in fact intentionally been a mule for several people in AEW in the attempt to establish his credibility. So a lot of people are using Sean Ross Sapp at the moment to get out the information that they want to get out. It is working in so much that Tony Khan is suddenly interested and is asking questions about it, but it is not working in that it is not exactly bringing us to a point where wrestlers are happy to work with them. Venom says, are NXT contracts different to main roster contracts? How does it work when people go to NXT for one-off feuds? Just curious. If they go to NXT for one-off feuds, they work under their WWE contract. Their WWE contract allows them to work on any brand. Their NXT contract just allows them to work on NXT. Joey says, about naming anyone, is it any of the released NXT UK talent? Once again, Joey, if I have 2 sources, I'll report it. If I don't have 2 sources, I ain't reporting shit. Danielle says, there any news on when Stevie Turner could return to NXT TV? None that I'm aware of, no. Venom says, would love for Jon Moxley to go back to WWE, would really love to see the Shield. Hogan says, still surprised they put the belt on Moxley while he wasn't under contract, which is especially entertaining when you consider that when he left WWE, he gave some serious promises stating that he would never in any world go to AEW, and then immediately went to AEW. Eddie says, do you think when Conan says Kenny Omega's in negotiations with WWE, do you think Cody Rhodes is a middleman in negotiations between Omega and Hunter? No. What I can say outright, Kenny Omega is not in contract negotiations with the WWE. He is currently still contracted to AEW, and if at any point he does start negotiating a new contract with the WWE while under contract of AEW, that is a serious breach. A serious breach. Kieran says if he's booking his own matches, he's doing a great job. His Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite has been great so far. Richard says he'll be Zoe Stark's tag partner to face Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Are you making up matches? When was that announced? Richard, I've asked you for a source before. If I don't get one, we're going to have a problem. Joey says, why did CM Punk have a change of heart all of a sudden? Is TK forcing him to come back? No. TK's not forcing him to come back, but he's refusing to let him out of his contract. And essentially, if he refuses to come back, the contract will maintain until the end of time without pay. CM Punk wants his payday now. Venom says, speaking of FTR, do you think they're going to WWE? Not at this point, no. Dylan says, do you think once Alexa Bliss is done with her treatment, she'll make a return to WWE? She's already done with her treatment. Everything went with flying colours. There is no residual issue. She will return as soon as they have a storyline for her. Dylan, if you're not already aware, I do have a video on the return schedule for Alexa Bliss currently on my YouTube that you may want to check out. Ken Sean Rossap has been proven to be fairly reliable, though not infallible. No one's particularly infallible. What I do find is that a lot of what people tell me and pull from Fightful Select, I don't pay for news, so I don't have Fightful Select. A lot of what people pull seems... Let's say, for example, the thing about the hiring freeze. I read that report when it was posted in my Discord, and it basically read out to me as like, there might be a hiring freeze. If there is a hiring freeze and we reported it, if there's not a hiring freeze, we didn't report anything. That's how it read to me personally. Anthony says, Tom, do you think when Bron Breakker loses his rematch against Carmelo Hayes, he'd abuse on the main roster as his bad guy character? He was promised a call-up relatively soon. The draft seems the perfect time to do so. Ken says, will AJ Lee ever be CM Punk's manager? No, she has no interest in doing that. And Venom says, do you think we see Rhea versus Ronda soon? No. Sean says, I don't know why people trust the Reddit user Kermit. I've seen a Becky fan posting things he's been saying about Becky. People just basically throw in with whoever they can, and it's kind of disappointing at times. I've spent a lot of time and effort establishing my credibility, proving myself right with the reports that I'm making, and being very careful to not make reports beyond that. The Kermit user is one of those who stated that the Cody Rhodes and Edge were returning right after the beginning of January, right after Christmas. At the beginning of January, they would both be returning. Neither of them did, and everyone forgets that. Everyone forgets what people what people report that's wrong, apparently. Everyone just forgets and ignores it. Two supers here. Hello, Leuven. Says, what's up? May I get a recap of the news up to this point, please? Absolutely not. We've been going for more than an hour, super. There's still 3 pieces of news to go. So at this point, I advise you to pop over to YouTube, rewind back to like 8 minutes in where you get the pieces of news about Bray Wyatt, and go from there. If I do a recap now, I will not be able to watch SmackDown because of how long we're going. Yes, Michael, thank you for clarifying that. Says, Kermit also claimed WWE was sold to Saudi. And what you'll see is that name coming up and like, who's got a lot of things right recently? Have they? Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura is returning to SmackDown tonight. The rumour is that he'll be working with Karrion Kross, which seems massively disappointing, but it is the beginning of a rebuild for Shinsuke Nakamura. They are going to be establishing him as a much stronger threat, not necessarily right now. The win over Karrion Kross, he may have to go through a few hoops first, but they are planning to establish Shinsuke Nakamura as a threat the level of Gunther. He will not be a world championship contender, and the plan at the moment, unfortunately, is for Shinsuke Nakamura never really to be a championship contender. At the moment, Shinsuke Nakamura is considered a serious challenger to Gunther, and we may well see a Shinsuke Nakamura versus Gunther match within the next 3 or 4 months. As regards the draft, the only thing I really want to reiterate on this one is that the reason it has been delayed, the original announcement was supposed to be on Monday. The announcement on Friday did not give a firm date. The draft was supposed to be taking place this week originally, but Vince McMahon has now returned and is taking his time adding a lot of additional elements to it. Essentially, Vince McMahon is involved in the draft. He is making notes and making changes to what Triple H originally pitched and making suggestions as well. He made some changes at WrestleMania. He's made some changes on Monday Night Raw. He is going to be making changes to almost every show going forwards. Mr. Stumble says, CM Punk news real? Does this signal the first Endeavour employee working for AEW? Yes, it does. CM Punk is still under contract for AEW. And Razar says, AEW seems so messy. Tony Khan needs more authority over his talent. Literally, the buck stops with him. But I don't think he knows it. T Super says Shinsuke versus Karrion is going to be crazy. Sorry for Karrion though. I get it. Sean says that was the most polite no I've ever heard. Oh, cheers, mate. Anthony says, Tom, do you think that's what hurts wrestlers is not having a union for things like CM Punk situation? That TK is not allowing him to get out of his contract. I do believe in unions. I'm a union guy. I do believe wrestlers should have a union, and I do believe it would help. I don't believe CM Punk would ever sign up to a union. Mr. Stumble says, when does ex-con Dom face... I have no idea how to pronounce that name. Joey says, do you think Shinsuke is going to go back to his NXT style? No, they don't go backwards. Zayn says, will we ever see the primetime players as a tag team in WWE again? No. Eric says, if they never want to do Shinsuke versus Roman, why tease it? Because at that time they were considering it, but they didn't do it. Hogan says it certainly feels like there's a lot more rumoured challenges lined up for Gunther, Lesnar, Nakamura, Sheamus, McIntyre, Knight, than there are for Theory. That's true. The draft will of course make some changes as regards that, but at the moment there are a lot more plans for Austin Theory than there are for... a lot more plans for Gunther than Austin Theory. Mahesh says, is there any news about The Rock returning to WWE at SummerSlam? No. There are no plans for The Rock to return. There have never been any plans for The Rock to return. Since losing that match to John Cena and turning up at WrestleMania 33 to set fire to the word Rock, there has been no direct involvement between The Rock and WWE. They chat with him every now and then and say, do you want to come back? And he's like, nah, I'm busy. There has not been any plan for a return of The Rock. Venom says, does Vince work NXT? No. Then he says, do you watch Ring of Honor? No. Rural Ran says, do you see Montez ever getting a solo push? Great potential there. Yes. There is a lot of people heavily in Montez Ford's corner backstage. He will get his chances. Leuven says, CM Punk needs to come back for AEW to sell out Wembley. Steve says, what's your favourite form of the WWE draft? GMs choosing superstars, a randomizer screen, or superstar shake-up, where wrestlers just showed up on the opposite show. I like a draft. I like the pageantry. I like the original one where everyone was drafted. So I'd like something like that. I don't mind the idea of having GMs, but I think it should be as simple as Stephanie on that side, Shane on that side with a massive crutch. Stumble says, Tom, do you think you can beat Otis in an eating challenge? No. Okay. Richard, you're just saying things now without any context to them or any reason to believe them, so I'm just putting you in timeout. JJ says, hey, Tom, is Becky avoiding Ronda? No. Hogan says, if I was a top tier wrestler, I'd probably want a chance to work with Gunther too. Me too, fair. Steve Engel says, why do people keep thinking The Rock is coming back? I don't understand it. Mostly because Meltzer keeps telling them that The Rock is coming back. And Joe says, I think we definitely say The Rock is done. With everyone we know, The Rock is done. The road is a big Hollywood star making big movies every day. Yeah, there has never been, since WrestleMania 33, there has never been any plan for a match featuring The Rock versus Roman Reigns. That there has been no plan for that. So the fact that every year, literally every year, in fact now in the build-up to SummerSlam, we're seeing Dave Meltzer making a ton of headlines, getting a whole load of people talking, and basically advertising his show, his subscriber package, basically making him money off something that there is no intention of happening. Leon says, will there be a new stage for Raw and SmackDown after the draft? Not to my knowledge, no. Leuven says, don't you think it would be cool to see The Rock acknowledge the Tribal Chief? Yeah, it's not going to happen, but it would be cool. Hogan says, do you flip between your Twitch and YouTube chats or do you funnel them into a single module? I funnel them into a single module, and then after so many chats, the module breaks. So, having about 40 minutes in, now I only have the Twitch chat over here, and you'll see me looking over here where the YouTube chat is. So I have both open at once. All of the YouTube data's there, all the Twitch data's here. Joey says, do you know what's going on with the AOP? Nope. Mr. Stumble says, does Meltzer have insiders in WWE that feed him bad info? There are plenty of people who've said that is exactly the case, yes. Zayn says, Jeff Hardy's banned from the UK, so he won't be at the Wembley show. Aled says, The Rock was on the first SmackDown on Fox, that's the last time we saw him. And also, coincidentally, reporting that The Rock would be on the first SmackDown on Fox and working with Becky Lynch is where I first made the big report that really made my name. Really did good things for me. Steve says, have you heard of what the plans are for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez as women's tag team champions? Good question, Steve, because Liv Morgan is my next and final piece of news. Now, as regards Raquel Rodriguez, she is kind of a means to an end at the moment. She is in a tag team with Liv Morgan and they want to keep pushing Raquel Rodriguez. However, the WWE, in particular Triple H, believes that Liv Morgan is the one worth pushing to the top and keeping at the top. So, Liv Morgan is now on the SmackDown banner. Charlotte Flair has been removed from the banner and replaced with Liv Morgan, meaning that Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey are the two women on the SmackDown banner. And I have been told, and I can report exclusively, Liv Morgan is considered the top face woman on the SmackDown side. She will be featured heavily in championship matches going forwards, right now with the tag team championships, but she'll be featuring week in, week out, and a large part of WWE programming will revolve around Liv Morgan. I think that's good news that a lot of people are going to get excited about. Sean says, one thing I think ruined the draft randomizer is John Cena being drafted to SmackDown then back to Raw. Funny though. Leuven says, do you personally think WWE will have Austin Theory retire Edge? No. Barry says, Liv Morgan at the top, bloody hell. And Leuven says, I love Liv Morgan. Rulrin says, The Rock sort of teased a Roman and Rock match at Mania on Young Rock, and I think that got people's hopes up. I think ultimately The Rock knows what people are saying, plays up to it for his own success, and why wouldn't he? Razar says, I liked the draft lottery they did in 2005. Remember seeing Cena show up on Raw and being genuinely shocked. I was a kid and didn't read internet rumours back then. Joey says, as regards the report on The Rock, did that report upset Alex McCarthy? He retweeted it. At that point, he had my back. Turns out not really. Mr. Stumble says, do you think Meltzer's more credible than Sean Ross Sapp? It depends what you mean by credible. They both report different things. Ken says, will commentators be in the draft? That's supposedly part of it, but I don't know if that's going to play out. They've got good commentary teams at the moment. Jamal says, do you know where Trinity may end up, Ring of Honor or Stardom? She wants to work both. She wants to basically follow Mercedes' money to Stardom and work some matches there, and then follow her back to America, which is what Mercedes is doing at the moment. Joey, Liv and Raquel may well be placeholders for the tag team championships, but Liv versus Ronda is something they're planning to revisit. JJ says, Becky and Lita lost for a Liv push or because Lita is done? Both. Lita's done. Trish versus Becky is the future when it comes to the Raw Women's division. Bianca Belair versus Io Sky independently is also building there, but when it comes to SmackDown, Liv Morgan is at the top. Mr. Stumble says, I'm sad about the Liv Morgan news. She should join Judgment Day. It doesn't really make sense at the moment. Naled says, how are they going to do the draft this year? Is it just going to be Adam Pearce? That remains to be seen, and we'll find out shortly. Please do remember, if you like the news that we've been reporting here, if you want more of it, because so far we've talked Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, broken promises to Rhea Ripley, Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, Jeff Hardy's return, transitional championships for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, Jon Moxley self-booking, CM Punk intentionally leaking information and who he's using for it, the build for Shinsuke Nakamura, the rewriting of the draft, and Liv Morgan's position on the card. If you want more like this, we do this show twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, so be sure to hit subscribe. We'll also be hosting a SmackDown watch party a little later on in the night when SmackDown starts, so please do be sure to check that out so that you can join us there. In the meantime though, I will be wrapping up at this point because we've gone for an hour and 15 minutes and your boy Tom wants a nice bit of sleep. Huge thanks to all of you for joining me. Hope to see so many of you a little later on tonight as well. But until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.